Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee or tea with American Scouser. I got the coffee going this morning. We got the Kermit thing going, green and loving it. And with us today, we have it's gonna be like Polish Mondays. The Polish Prince Mateusz is with us. What's going on, man? How's it going?
Oh, not much, not much. Just enjoying this dreadful day outside here in the Chicago area. It's been quite lovely yesterday and today.
Yes, it has been nonstop, literally. Yeah, we're both happen to be in Chicago, so enjoying this crappy weather simultaneously.
Welcome to fall.
Yeah, it's been rough. It's been rough. It's been like nonstop. Dogs are not loving it. I can tell you that. So a lot of the news today is mostly about cancellations and all that kind of stuff. We'll start talking with that. Alan is with us this morning. Good morning, Alan. So I guess let me ask you this because Klopp was asked about this. We were talking about it right before we went on air about how this long gap due to the Queen's passing and obviously games being canceled and stuff like that. Um, does it help us or does it hurt us? I think you said he was asked in terms of like the rhythm. Does the team lose rhythm and stuff? And he kind of gave a sarcastic answer. What is your take? Does this help this team because of the run they're in, or is it more of a man? Let's get to the next game so we can get this bad taste out of our mouth.
I mean, at what point will something not help? Right. I think with where we're at right now and what we've seen, maybe even just having that weekend break might be enough to kind of just give the guys some clarity. Maybe I know he also he said that they had a meeting with the players where they watched the Napoli game, and he called it. He said it was a real horror, to be honest. He said, and it was the worst game we played since he was here. So he thinks that was the worst game that he's managed at Liverpool. So that speaks volumes, I think, because there have been some. I mean, there haven't been that many poor results. I mean, there's the 7-2 Villa. That one was just weird. There was the 4-1 Tottenham. I don't, but I think this is one that will kind of stick in the minds of a lot of the players and especially the managers we can see. So I think there is some truth to hopefully letting that little break break the rhythm or the lack of rhythm, I should say. So I think it's a good thing.
Do you agree, by the way, that that is by far the most horrific game we've played? I mean, you mentioned a couple of those games, right? Like in terms of like scores. I mean, I guess we're not counting heartbreaks, like
Yeah.
games that we felt like, some of the Champions League finals and stuff. But in terms of performance, do you consider that our like worst game ever? Well, not
That
ever, but in the club era.
yeah, I mean, I'd say that's got to be up there. It was pretty bad.
I think so. I think, even like the Villa game comes to mind, right? In terms of like a score, like what the fuck. And that was more of a what the hell is going on? And it
Yeah,
seemed like every counter was working, but you'd never. I think this is the first time in a long time where I've kind of questioned the will of the players and their attitude and stuff like that. That does not happen. I mean, luckily, that has not happened in a long time. And even those games where we lost, it was kind of like, man, everything is working against us. Every counter is working,
right.
blah, blah, blah. Not a matter of, are they even playing? Because it felt like half the players almost like quits on the whole ordeal, which is something we do not see. So,
That's the worst part of it because even in that Villa game, I mean, it was so circumstantial. You had three deflections that randomly went in,
yeah.
and then you had a huge mistake by Adrian, and it felt like what you said when everything that could go wrong would go wrong. But the players, they still looked like they wanted to play all 90. They didn't want to give up. Whereas here, I mean, by the 30th minute, it just seemed like at least half of the guys checked out, and then by the second half, you pretty much had Luis Diaz and Harvey still running, and that was it. I don't know. It's just that's the worst part of it. It's just you always talk about the body language. You don't care if they lose as long as they look like they want to play, and I think that's the worst part is when not only are you playing the worst that we've seen you play, but you also look like you don't want to play, and I don't know what the matter is there. So I think that's something it's hard to answer. I'm sure there's lots of reasons, maybe going into the locker room potentially, and that's something that might not come out for a while. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It did feel like it was Diaz. So if Diaz plays Napoli by himself, he will lose by like 4-1. I mean that's what it looked like almost. And I mean, I was in Nashville last week, hence we didn't have the morning show. But and I didn't get a chance to watch it with the Nashville group, so we're watching it at a brewery with my wife, like on the phone. Having some like the best pizza ever, by the way. So I shout out to Jonathan Slade for some of his recommendations and Chris Unick when we were in Nashville, because we
Nice.
definitely got the most out of the city. But anyway, that made me hungry for breakfast now, Mateusz. See what happens. But yeah, I mean, we were watching it and I'm like, man, it's horrific, and it was just so disappointing. And it did look like, and I think I literally said that to Angie, that I'm like, it looks like Diaz is playing by himself, like against like 11 Napoli guys, and he was bad body language wise. So let's hope. That's why in some ways this break might help, just because you need the longest. Sometimes when you have an unlucky game, like you're saying, like that Villa game, you want to go back out there right away, because it was just one of those things and it will never happen again and stuff. I don't know if this team felt like after that game this will never happen again, because it was in the body language that it could happen any second. So I would have been very afraid that you go out there against the Wolves, and if the first 5 minutes don't go our way, that you kind of have flashbacks and you kind of go back to it right away. I think like this entire time over here, and it is, would you call this a must-win game based on the first results?
I think in the, as far as the group is concerned, I think it can still advance in the group with losing this game. I think there's still a chance to get through, but as far as psyche, as far as just emotional, as emotional state, I think it's a must-win for the players as much as it is for the manager and some of the fans. So I think in that aspect, it is a must-win. But I think, can you still lose this game and make it out of the group? Kind of find your rhythm the next 4 games. Yeah, I think that's still possible. But so I'm not going to call it, you lose and you die. But it's a must-win as far as the psyche and emotions are concerned, I think.
Well, speaking of that, then let's go to this headline here. We're talking about this one here. Robertson being out this game, more than likely having like an injury issue with a knee, which is always scary when that kind of stuff happens, because God knows how long it's going to take. I mean, I don't think if we were going to sacrifice one person and said, you can have one guy injured, I think it would be probably more okay with Robertson, just because there's a capable backup ready to go.
Correct. Yeah, and that's it exactly. That's the one position where we feel like, even though Costas's balls haven't been as great as we're used to seeing them this year so far, maybe part of that too is just not having enough of that game time. And we saw, last year when he came in the first 5-6 weeks of the season, did a great job. And so if anyone were to get hurt, this is a good replacement to have.
And then I guess most of the talk is about going to be, this game is going on. I think that was going to be something that, we kind of waited to see over the last few days. Are they still going to play this game? And obviously with the Champions League, it kind of like changes everything, and looks like this is going to be going on. The Chelsea game is kind of like an unknown, where it could be still going on, or they could move it to Liverpool and make this our home game. What do you make of that? Would you rather have that game? Or I almost feel like, because of the run we have right now and the injuries, it's almost like the less games we play, the better. I know that means an even more congested schedule moving forward, but I think sometimes this team plays better when they're on a roll and the games are coming in every 3 days, just because not a lot of time to think, and you just like go out there and keep playing. And if you're winning, kind of like breeds more winning. Whereas the run we have now, I almost feel like, do we really want to face a Chelsea team that just changed their manager? So we'll get to that next. But
yeah,
let me ask you what your preference would be.
I think Chelsea's in a vulnerable spot right now. They haven't been great this year, of course, and we saw that with Tuchel being fired. Probably that amongst other reasons, of course. But I think I'd rather have I'd rather play them after the World Cup, because then that still gives you the chance to have some more depth. Because at that time, the window opens back up. Might be able to bring in some guys just to fit for the next 6 months or the next year, however have you. Those stopgaps, the Kabaks, the Davies, all those. I mean, if Davies is still real, we don't know. Never saw him, but yeah,
Never saw. Let me fix my light here as we keep going.
Yeah, and so I think as far as you could have that new manager bounce for Chelsea, where you get really, really inspired to play. And Potter's a great manager, of course. So we'll see how the game goes if it does go. But I think I'd rather wait till after the World Cup. And I know fixtures are going to be absolute hell. But if you get knocked out of a couple cups and you just leave it to the Premier League and the Champions League, or maybe emphasize 2 competitions rather than all 4. I think that would be. I know in the past we've criticized Klopp for not going for it all and not going for the smaller cups, and then now we've gone for all the cups, and now our players are absolutely shot because they're so tired from going for all the cups with a small roster. So it's like a catch-22. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. So
Yeah, it is a tricky spot. And yeah, that was the criticism, right? And now it almost makes it look like, but I don't know. I still think it is part of the ordeal where even when we were going for those, I think we could have probably rotated more and we kind of totally switched the modes. But Alan says that Arsenal PSV Eindhoven game is already postponed. Insufficient police personnel. Basically, that's like the London police saying we can't be in 2 spots at the same time. Ahead of the Queen's funeral, and Chelsea and Liverpool could be next to be canceled. And I think that's like the thing: is it going to be canceled? Are they going to go to move it to Liverpool and make it our home game? I don't know how that would play out. I almost feel like I think I would rather wait, but I know what you're saying too in terms of where Chelsea is at. But doesn't whenever you get a new manager, even if it is not going to work out in the long run, you get that initial burst of like the whole fresh air, like a new manager. The new manager smell is on the team still. How much of an impact do you think it will have? And also, like, what do you think about the whole Tuchel getting canned and Potter taking his place?
I like bringing Potter in from Chelsea's perspective. I don't like how it happened because it makes no sense. You have a manager that you've had for the last couple of years. You give them $300 million to spend for the summer to bring in guys that they want to bring in, especially at the very end. Aubameyang. I mean, I'm pretty sure Tuchel was a big reason for Aubameyang coming in because they used to manage him in the Bundesliga, and then now you have this guy that you just brought in who has to play under this new manager who has no idea if he's going to like him or not. And so I think Graham is an excellent manager. And I think this is the next big step in his career, and I don't blame him for taking it. I think I would have been more excited to see what he could have done with that Brighton squad. I felt like if he stayed there for another year or two, gotten a couple more guys that he wanted, I think they could have been a real threat to European spots, and I think that would have been fun to watch and fun to have for the league. But at the same time, you in any sort of professional capacity, try to get to the top level. And Chelsea, as they might be in a rough spot right now, but they are arguably, one of the most iconic clubs in Europe over the last 25 years. So it's a good step in his career. And I think overall, once he gets some time, if they give him the time, I think they can be really good. But that's the other thing, though, you'll probably get into is, will he get that time? Will he get sacked by January? I don't. It's just it's weird. So,
and I think that's the thing because Potter. I mean, when you're at Brighton, you initially have, your main goal initially is stay in the Premier League, right? So you can be like, okay, we're gonna stay in the Premier League. You can keep building, and then they have kind of kept building up on it. And I've been talking about it in the Premier League show. I really enjoy watching Brighton. I mean, the way they play, and even when they have moved on some pieces and actually got a lot of money for it in the summer, they've kind of kept going, and they brought, people to fill in exactly those spots at like a lower cost, made money, and keep playing the same way, and with some smart moves. I guess the thing with Potter that we're going to find out is there's a difference between managing those teams and where like the expectation is lower and you already kind of like went above the expectations overall since you've been there, so you get the kind of like the benefit of that. I mean, you can say the same thing maybe like with Klopp, right? I mean, Klopp can have a bad run or bad decisions, and just because you kind of earn that, I guess, benefit of the doubt, uh, most fans look at different things to blame. Like club doesn't get to blame. It's always like, it's FSG, it's the players and stuff like that. You kind of get that as a manager. Now you're going somewhere new, a lot higher expectations. And I think the biggest thing is you're kind of managing a lot more egos and a much bigger squad full of egos.
Mm.
Do you think he makes that adjustment? Because not only it's one thing if you had like 14 guys, but now they're more famous and they have bigger egos. I mean, Chelsea has spent like a ton of money, like you're saying. So there are guys there with egos who are going to be sitting at the end of the bench and might not see a lot of time. That's a lot more man management, I think, in those teams compared to a club like Brighton. You think he handles that well?
I think I do, only because from what I read about him when all this was going down, his one of the things he studied in school was psychology and sports psychology, and being able to understand where players are coming from. And I guess he's really incredible at just the personal one-to-one level between him and the players, where he can really get to understand who they are, what makes them tick, what makes them go. So I think from that aspect, I think he's got a shot to do it, only because it was really interesting to read. I'll have to find it and maybe link it to whoever wants to read about it. But going back to what you're saying with the expectations, with the pressure, it could be something that he might not be ready for, and you could be ready to take on this team. You could be ready to talk to these players, but then you've got a whole new owner to impress. You got a whole new city to impress, and so we'll have to, I think he'll do okay if he gets the time, as long as he gets at least a year or two to kind of sort himself out, get maybe a couple more guys in that he wants to get in, because I'm sure there's going to be some shifting going around. The only person right now that's safe is Cucurella, because that's possibly why he went to Chelsea in the first place, was because they knew that they were after Graham. And they decided to pull the trigger after the Champions League match.
Meanwhile, Chilwell is like, what the fuck?
Hey, we'll take a backup left back, right? I mean,
so I guess here's the thing: if you kind of like had to project now, how do you think he does at Chelsea, or how does Chelsea do rest of the year? Because, like we said, there's a lot of quality there, but at the same time, there's a lot of questions. And some players have not kept their form, like Mount, and like some of their like Havertz. Some of those players
Yeah.
did not carry their form from last season over. Looking ahead, where do you see Chelsea with this move now? And do you think this was like almost the owners wanted to do this all along, and they were just waiting for like a moment to get rid of Tuchel and bring their guy in, similar to kind of like they're looking at Liverpool, the American ownership there, getting Klopp and getting like their own like their people in place, and then everything else coming with it. You think they were just waiting for a moment and jumped on the chance?
They very well could have, because I from reading about the situation with Chelsea and Tuchel, it seemed like Tuchel did not get along with Bowley at all. And rumored, I don't know if you saw this, but the first meeting they had together, they Bowley and his guys were trying to lay out a 4-4-3 strategy, and Tuchel was like, "That's too many players. What is this guy doing?" So
we could really dominate midfield. We had one more guy.
Imagine if we could have one more midfielder. Imagine what we could do.
Here's my vision for the club.
I mean, actually, we could have that vision at Liverpool. We still couldn't do it because we wouldn't have the fucking midfielders for it. But yeah, so that was the relationship between them has been strained. So I think this was on the cards for a while, and they just needed the right reason to do it. And I think that the Champions League match might have been. I think they could have done it earlier if they wanted to, technically, I guess, and it would have made sense if they did it earlier, so they get some, possibly a couple guys that Potter would like to get in himself. But I think, going back to your original question, I think Chelsea finished top 4. I think they finished 4th. I'm going to
Yeah,
go fourth.
yeah. I mean, I think so. Just because of the depth of the squad, I had them. I kind of like foresaw like a year similar to last year, where they don't have enough to keep up with, Liverpool and City, but they would be, like right above, like Tottenham and stuff like that. But now, yeah, I mean, with the start they've had and the issues they have, and you would think Potter is it's going to take some time for Potter to do what he wants to do. And yeah, it does seem unfair on him that he comes into a situation where a ton of money was spent, and it might be guys that I'm like, yeah, I'm never gonna play that guy, or he really does not suit. I mean, I think Aubameyang was probably the perfect example for that. I don't think it's anybody comes back and says Koulibaly, no, I'll pass, or Fofana, hell no, or something like that. Those are like like top center backs they brought in with that money. But yeah, like forward, like I think especially moving forward, like the Sterling Aubameyang, is that like the vision he has? I guess we will see. Let's get back to our boys. I mean, we'll talk a lot about it in the podcast tonight with Bickler and Galley, but I want to get your take on what you expect to see tomorrow.
Oh, it's so difficult to answer at this point, right? I mean, it's
It is, and that's what I think. That's what's like kind of like the most disappointing. There were some givens of what we would see at any Liverpool game before. And I think not having seen a lot of those aspects that we're so used to seeing, maybe spoiled in seeing the
yeah,
effort, the energy level. I mean, being outrun by every team we play is something we're definitely not used to. And I think it's just shocking.
yeah. We're losing that identity, that we've been so passionate about. The Pep's book comes out in the summer, and social media does more on the book than the team itself, and then we lose all the intensity. It's just it's I don't know. It's maybe there's just been too much of that intensity over the last 4 years now, and it's taken a toll on the players. I mean, when you think about it, you lose two title races by a point. You lose two Champions League finals for a lot of these players. It that can weigh on you. And then I know we like to give Trent some slack, but I mean, I know he's only 22, 23 years old, but he has so many games under his belt, and we have still not found a proper right back to give him at least a game's rest. I mean, hopefully now, Calvin Ramsey is meant to be that replacement, but he's been hurt, of course. So and almost the timing of everything it's almost like a perfect storm where you see all of these factors coming in at once, and it's just making it a really difficult time to watch. But even with saying that, there's still enough quality in the squad to be able to rally behind, to be able to get some sort of momentum, to be able to get through this, hopefully. So
What kind of a lineup do you think we'll see tomorrow? It's a crapshoot within itself. I
man,
mean, Thiago, you would think would be back now in that midfield. So you have Henderson. So I don't know if you see like Elliot with him. Carvalho should be good to go, but I don't know if he'll be risked. And up top, you have all the options now. So you have the full roster available for the front line. I guess that's probably my biggest question to you is who do you play up top as three? I think the back
yeah,
line is pretty much determines itself right now. But for the top three, who do you put up
yeah.
there?
It's weird. We're going through these waves of this, and all these positions are fit, and then these are all hurt, and then it just goes in. These are all hurt, but then now these are all fit, and it's just a constant cycle. Um, I think it goes. I think it goes Diaz, Bobby, Salah. I think there's just something about not wanting to change too much, and I like the energy that Darwin provides as a sub right now. Which I guess with Jota being back, you don't need that energy as much if you have a guy like Jota. Um, yeah, it's tough. I just don't even know which direction to go because I'm not familiar with Ajax too much this year. I know they had a couple of players leave, right? I mean, they had Anthony leave, they had Martinez leave, and so I don't know what they're going to line up like, and maybe Klopp was able to take this weekend that was canceled or postponed, and maybe he was gonna have specific guys come in for Tuesday, but now he's not. He's gonna change that, given that they didn't have to play over the weekend, so he can kind of give some guys the time that he might not have been giving them over the weekend. And so if the best way to start a rhythm is to just find a starting 11 that you feel comfortable with every week. And I guess maybe that's why he kept going to the same lineup, is because he wanted that team to find that rhythm, perhaps. And it just never happened. So maybe he does something completely different then, to start something new. But so I think I'll go Diaz, Bobby, and Mo.
Yeah, I think that's why I kind of wish we knew what the heck was happening with the Chelsea game, because I would think it would affect us, because I think, that's a game that I probably would rather have Bobby in, for example, against Chelsea, which would kind of like have me start Nunez tomorrow against Ajax. So not having that unknown for the weekend and not being able to kind of like foresee how your rotation is going to go has to be kind of tricky to figure out. So I'm hoping that gets resolved, hopefully before we play, ideally tomorrow, so that like we can get the 11 out there. But I agree, I have no problem with that lineup. Like I say, like the back line, you got to figure Matip goes back in there after like Gomez is showing, which, by the way, I thought that was as crappy as a game as Gomez was having to me. And that probably got me, like, there was a lot of things to get mad about that Napoli game, but one of the things that I got probably the most mad about, aside from like some of the body language that I was talking about on the Discord channel, is the fact that we kind of like just took Gomez out at halftime, almost making it look like, if it wasn't for Gomez, this is going great, but Gomez, he's just messing it up, kind of thing. And that really got to me, because it's very un-Klopp like. I mean, I guess we've done it before, like we taking Keita out against that like Madrid game, but at least in that situation, you kind of knew it's still on Klopp to throw Keita in that situation after not playing for a while. And to do that to Gomez, I thought was kind of like bullshit when everybody's dragging ass. I know you can't change everybody, but just changing Gomez at halftime, to me, I hope the team didn't think, oh, it's Gomez's fault. Thank God, now that he's gone, I'm freaking like within 3 minutes we conceded again. Daz is with us this morning. Daz, how is it going? Good morning. Score prediction from you, since we again till
boy.
Hey, here's a good thing though. At least we didn't lose in fantasy this week.
Yeah, I'm still undefeated in our head-to-head. I am, top of the league. You'll never sing that. So, that's fun.
Stop the count.
Stop the count. Score predictions. Let's see. Well, quickly going back to your Gomez point, I saw Klopp said that with those quotes, the comments that we talked about earlier, he also said 8 out of the 11 guys against Napoli played below their level. So he went out and he said himself that there were. So I'm assuming Ali, Diaz, and
who's the third? That's what I was trying to figure out. Sadly, that's pretty sad. But who was the third guy that didn't play horrible?
I think most people are thinking it's Harvey, even though defensively, like, and we've there have been people that have shared his offensive numbers and how incredible he's been, but there was someone that shared a stat defensively of how bad he's actually been. And it's like, he's still young and he still has to do a lot better defensively. And you kind of, what point is the trade-off worth it? Because if he's going to keep playing on the right side and he's playing so terribly defensively, then that's just compounding the issues back there.
Yeah.
But score predictions, let's just do something crazy just because it's a weird year. Let's just go, let's go 3-3. I don't know.
3-3.
That's some fun. I don't know.
God, that is a lot. Yeah, that's way too much fun for my life. I am not up for that much fun on a Tuesday.
They need a point from the game at least. I think that's my thing. So I'll take a draw where they look like they want to play.
Yeah, I guess that's fair too. But I really think, if we have that attitude, it's going to be interesting to see the reception they get, the support they get from the fans throughout the game. And I mean, we know the beginning, but is that going to help the team, and is it going to be like a fresh start? I think we're almost hoping every time we see a glimpse that we're going to get the team that we're used to seeing back. the 9-0 win, we were like, oh, okay, the last second winner,
We're
there
back.
we go. And and then it has never come. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like I say, tonight, 7 p.m. Central, 8 Eastern, live podcast with myself, Gally, and Bickler. We'll talk a lot about this game. I'm sure they'll have a lot to complain about and project moving forward. You'll be joining us every Monday, Polish Prince. We're gonna make Polish Mondays. Polish Monday, dragging Mateusz out of the bed in the
wake
morning.
up
Nothing
on
like
time.
it. Nothing like it. Well, everybody, thanks a lot for watching again. We're back to the mornings. We will be. Yeah, see now Ellen says I gotta get to the pub to see all 6 goals. Don't go with Mateusz's predictions. A couple of Mondays, you guys will you guys will be all over this.
They're gonna stop watching Mondays. You watch. You're gonna have to can me because it's gonna get so bad. You're gonna be crying for Maka to come back on Mondays, and you're gonna wish you never invited me on here.
At least we know what's in your mug. That's the only thing with Mecca is we never know what's in the mug. But well, thanks a lot, everybody. The morning shows are back. I'll be back tomorrow morning again. But even before then, you'll get more of me, more dosage of Timuchin today with the podcast tonight, and we'll be back tomorrow with the morning show. Thanks a lot, Mateusz.